On this episode of the Coach's Clinic, brought to you by MaxEffortMuscle.com, we have Brian Peters. Mike, unbelievable show.
Unreal. I think my biggest takeaway, and it's something I'm still wrestling with, is this idea of the mask and trying to be different people. Because if you're going to be a high performer, you've got to be in a different space. But I'll give the other side of that too. If you're in that high performance mindset all the time, you're going to be really hard to be around family, friends, etc. So being able to flip on and off, and there's just so much here that I'm going to take away and try to put into our program.
Tyler?
Grab your notebook.
Yeah.
I was sitting here the whole time, and I was like spacing. I was just like zoning on what Brian. I was like, man, I hope nobody asked me a question, because like I was just trying to
present,
trying to remember everything that you said. Man, it was we covered every end of the spectrum, and it was just a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
You know, usually after this, I always think about what coaches can take away from this, but I think this is one of those episodes. If you're a human being, there's a lot to unpack and take away from this episode. I think anyone's going to find value in it. So even if you're not a coach, you want to tune into this one for sure.
Yeah, I would say that Brian's one of my favorite people that I've added to my life in 2021. So you guys are about to be ready for just a lot of interesting material from all walks of life. It's going to be amazing. Roll to the show. All right, Coach's Clinic podcast. Welcome to another episode. Our coaching staff, Coach Mike Deegan, Coach Tyler Treadway, Coach Dustin Myers. I'm your boy, Corey G, with special guests, a man that's been in 5 professional football leagues.
5 of them.
I didn't even know there was 5.
Yeah, there is, and I'm sure he'll share with us.
5 no longer exist,
He is a certified savage and has an amazing podcast called Chasing Edges.
Boom.
My 4 a.m. crew homie, Brian Peters. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, boys. I'm a new coach, so I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. No, I think also, obviously, the breathing, the stuff that you're embarking on is very new. So it opens up a wide range of like you, first off, working with coaches as coming up as a player, how you were coached, how you like to be coached, I think is really interesting. You coaching and your style, like there's like a lot to unpack here. And we're live on Twitter. So make sure you guys retweet that shit,
Is it
It
official? There it is.
Yeah. We're serious out here. Mike, they're going to see you on here. Like,
I know.
They'll be like, Mike is serious. He got a live show.
He's changing.
So I just
He's on the come up.
so I retweeted it. So that's all we got to do. All right, let's ride.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
All right.
So having a player coach on, Mike, what are you thinking right out the gate? What do you want to know about this guy?
Well, here I have a friend that calls them high velocity questions. A guy named Joe Farrar, because you always got to start with the high velocity question. And what I'm thinking about is, you have played, you've coached a little bit now as well. And I've heard you on other podcasts talk about being able to flip the switch between being a savage and being very compassionate. From a coaching standpoint, now I'm going to get right into coaching, then we'll kind of unpack some things. Sure. From a coaching standpoint, there's a lot of times, one of my favorite coaches I've ever watched, you'll see him screaming, get on guys, get on guys, get on guys, and then after practice you see him put his armor right around them. Mm-hmm. So I just want to hear your thought on how you flip in a coaching setting between being someone who pushes and someone who cares, or if that even makes sense to you in any ways.
It definitely makes sense to me. I haven't been, as a coach, put in a lot of those positions. I think as a leader in general, like that needs to be in your tool belt, and I have used that as a leader. And I think as a leader, like on a football team and things like that, you are a coach. Like you're the gatekeeper of the standard, and that's all a coach is in that realm. So when I think about myself as we'll call it a coach in the football world and that kind of thing, like you gotta motherfuck some guys sometimes, and it's like I'm a very compassionate person, and usually the motherfuck comes after I've done a lot to explain things or take my time to like break down a special teams tape or develop their strength and conditioning, or guys that ask about supplements, all those things. Like I've been compassionate before I lay the wood kind of deal.
Do you struggle with that? Like afterwards, so as a coach, right? So I don't know if you guys can relate to this or not, but you get on someone and they leave and they're upset with you. Yeah. Do you struggle with that or not really?
No, because I flipped the switch back to compassion. Like I was like, why I did that, right? Like because I've invested this much time. I did it with a couple young cornerbacks, special teamers with the Houston Texans. I was like I'll call guys out in meetings. And like I was like, we've been over this. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And
Did you do that before you was a captain, or just once you became a captain?
well, so like I was a captain.
Captain,
like
just to say.
yeah,
It's
but, like
amazing.
I was a captain my 2018. But like
Sure.
when I showed up, there was no leadership in the special teams room.
Okay.
Nobody was holding people accountable, and I came from a really cool program with the Minnesota Vikings where special teams was
Big deal.
very important. Very emphasized and like paramount and like the field position battle, because that's massive in football. Like where you start with the ball, literally there's percentage, like money ball percentages, like what's your chance of a field goal, what's your chance of things. So like field position's massive. And Mike Zimmer, and then the special teams coach up there, Mike Prefer, who he acted as like the stand-in head coach for the Browns the other day.
Got it. Oh yeah.
Very like, again, and he has this military background, so like he knew how to hold the standard, but also how to be compassionate. So like I brought that immediately in 2015 to the Houston Texans, like because nobody cared. And for me, like I had a niche right away because nobody cared.
Here's a wide open opportunity for you.
Yeah, and like so I got my leverage there. So like immediately, like just through production and leading by example, and then because I was producing, guys were asking me, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And like low key, like I kind of installed a lot of the Minnesota Vikings stuff with the Houston Texans.
Like it.
At least some of their techniques on how to set, where to set on like kickoff return and things like that. So I became a leader and a coach pretty quick down there. And so like 16 through 18, I was in a captain's position. We just didn't have captains.
Got it.
But so like that progressed, and like obviously like those forms, like I'm usually there watching film or whatever anyway, so I just tried to bring guys with me as a leader. And then but the more time I invested in guys and they kept messing up and those kind of things, like I had to find a standard of performance. So you can't keep making the same mistakes. And like if you ask me for help and then keep making the same mistakes, I just get mad. As a human, I get mad. And then so I'll snap, and then I'll not regress to the compassionate thing. I was like, we got to fix this. So it's hands-on time on the field, or it's more time in the film room, or eventually like it's developing other skills. So, but like, I think that, like, I don't know. I like being coached really hard. Like, even though I'm like a nice person,
I always say that about myself too.
Yeah.
I know I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, like,
I just sound like a fucking dick half the
no,
time.
like you know, like I'm a nice guy, and like I can talk to all my coaches about anything, football, life, those kind of things. But like, I don't need to be coached like that. Like I need to know the standard, and I need to be held to a standard. Like the most effective coach for me was Mike Vrabel, head coach for the Titans now, but he was my linebacker coach in Houston for 3 years, and he held a freaking standard and coached me hard. He had a lot of equity with the players, one, because he played, which is very cool. And then he's hands-on. Like he's constantly punching you in the chest. He's constantly testing you physically. And then he has a standard of performance. Like, but yeah, like physicality's non-negotiable. Doing your job's a non-negotiable, and everything after that, like he'll coach you. Yeah. And because if you're not capable, like he used to call me a safety. I was a converted safety, a linebacker in the NFL. So he called, like, that was his chirp for me. He's like, you're a safety, those kind of things. Like, until you learn how to use your hands, you're a safety. But these things, these harder coachings, and like the getting cussed out, and you're the dumbest smart kid I know, a lot of those things, like, but like that stuff worked for me. And so I knew very early on in my NFL career, I needed to be coached very hard. And I got the most out of myself then, because like that just creates discomfort as a player where you want to meet the standard of performance. And so I think as a coach now, like, what's the standard of performance? And so I coach breathwork as like a consultant. So like I'm not holding the standard for the team, but I'm holding the standard for the skill. Sure. So so now you don't get to show up to breathwork and half-ass or like fall asleep during the meditations and things like that. Like the goal is to get the most out of what we're doing right now. So I go very intentional into the standard, and like, just because I'm here coaching you guys 2 days a week doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing this every day, every pre-workout, those kind of things, and down-regulating in a smart manner, because I want you to have the skill. Like, they're paying me to give you a skill. And so, like, that is why it's important to me. And so, like, I by no means have it, like, I had to cuss or get mad or anything at any of these guys, because a lot of my breath conversations bleed into mental skills. So it gets deeper into, like, how have I been coached? How do I like to be coached? Philosophy. How do I apply controlling the controllables and all those things into my coaching? So it's been the coaching thing's been cool for me, because as a consultant and a step-in kind of coach, like I get to kind of be removed from like the coaching authoritarian culture, and I get to be like a resource to the players, and like I can be really compassionate. I like being that type of coach as opposed to being the dog and the authority figure. So I think that suits me very well. But at some point I would like to get back into the real coaching world, where like I know the standard. I'm going to hold the standard, but I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be like I'm a fun person. Like I chirp all the boys during like the workouts and those kind of things. But I'm also absorbing the culture here, where I see him set the standard. I see other guys set the standard, and that's
He said something the other day in the workout. One of the guys needed to take a weight again. He basically pulled on it like a little pussy, and I was like, "Yo, take it again." And he was like, "I was like, no, right now, like take it again right now and fucking get it." And like he didn't get it, but it was like more about like that step up. Brian's like, "Just want to let you know, like that's why I come here." But you know what I mean? Because that's the expectation.
And it's rare.
Yeah,
like
it is rare.
A lot of people have it's not empathy, but that's like something a lot of people let slide.
Yeah.
Like the kid failed.
My standard of what I watch is not the standard I want.
Yeah,
It's irrelevant how much weight it was.
the standard's max effort.
Correct.
That kid, he quit at 97%,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
couldn't stand it.
no, and
Can't just let that ride.
I couldn't let it ride,
Nope.
D.
no, but he sees that, and that's great coaching, and like that's a great culture setting, and the players set the culture, and like over time the coach's influence on the culture, like you walk into the Patriots locker room or like places where the coaches have been established, like there's a bunch of ways to have respect for the culture and the coaches, but like once you have the standard set and it's been ingrained for 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, even longer, like now like it's not on autopilot, but everybody knows the standard, and it's really hard to achieve that, and I don't see it in business world very much. I've found it here at the 4 a.m. crew, but there's not a lot of places in the world or in the sporting world that I see that, and I hear about the Ohio State culture from Dust and some of the guys, and I hear the elite nature of the standard, and like that's where as a coach I'd like to be able to develop the ability to hold those standards and learn how to do it in a way that fits me, because I don't want to be somebody I'm not either. But like I know that I'm massively competitive, so at one point I'm going to get mad and hold the standard because that's what has to be done, and that's how I like to be coached. So I need to have that skill set, but I also am going to be fun and compassionate at the same time, because I do get a lot out of like helping somebody and seeing light switches go off and that kind of thing.
Of course. Charlie.
Yeah, so I think like the biggest thing that we've talked about is like people want to be coddled, right? They want to fail, they want to miss a weight, and they just want everyone to come over and pat them on the back and be like, dude, you did your best. Like,
But what happens when you know they didn't do their fucking best?
but that's what
Go ahead.
leads everyone to be soft is,
Yeah.
you know, it's okay to be a failure. And I saw a tweet the other day that somebody was like, oh, it's okay to fail. And he was like posting a video of him like squatting, and he just gave up. And I'm like, there's a difference between failing and giving it everything you have and just being a pussy and just not, you know, ever taking yourself to that next level. So where do you find like that happy balance? Because when I look at myself as a coach, I'm really good at connecting with the players and being friendly with them, and I get a lot of respect for that. But then when it comes time to turn on that, you know, kind of, you know, tough nose, kind of like what Corey was talking about, where he was kind of getting on a guy. It's all love, but it's kind of hard for them to understand it if they're not used to it. I coach soccer, so a lot of those kids are not like tough, gritty, like they're kind of babies. And so it's really tough for me to find that balance between being that guy that relates to them, but then also being that tough guy on them.
Yeah, I think that again it falls back to the standard of performance. Like the standard is what is going to be what I'll preach. Like so you got to like the standard here is max effort. Like the frustration comes from the effort concept. So like I think as a coach, you always want your players to give max effort, and the concept that rings in my head, I was talking to Colin Moore yesterday, and his dad was really tough on him, that kind of concept. But like the only time he was tough on him is when he didn't meet the standard. The standard was max effort. Like basically like if you like gave like the quitting concept you spoke on, or like failing's fine if you're giving max effort, but if you're not giving max effort, that's a massive problem. Or like you just fatigue made a coward out of you, and then now you're just succeeding a takedown or whatever it ends up being. So like as a coach, I'd look for like knowing that the kid, like he had it above the deadlift above his
knees.
Yeah, and like at that point, that's a grit point.
Yep.
And like same as like maybe I don't know wrestling for shit, but like a guy has like 2 hooks in, but like you can still get out of it or keep fighting, and you just take it and like start whatever. I don't know wrestling. So I'm not
Good
gonna
try.
say, yeah.
That was a valiant
basically-
effort, though, Brian.
Basically, like
Well,
let's say
hooks are
someone,
upper body. I was going for lower body, so I was already fucked. Yeah.
someone's all the way in on a shot. All they got to do is finish, but now it's a 50-50 position. So it's just who wants to who wants it? The guy either wants to defend the shot or the guy wants to finish it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So who wants it more? It's one of those just grip positions.
Yeah.
Same thing with the deadlift. You said he already got past the hard part.
Yeah.
It's past his knees. Now he just got to lock it out. Well, now it's a toughness. It's an effort factor.
Yeah. And so if I'm a coach and I know what max effort looks like, that's my standard. And that's where I get mad when people fall below the standard. And then that's when you find out who has pride and who doesn't. Because my coach in college, Jerry Brown, who's a legend, he basically said, like, he gave us like the definition of pride, and like pride is what turns on when you fall below your standard. And it's very simple. It's what spurs you on when you fall below your standard, or the standard of the group. And so if you fall below the standard and coach yells at you and you stay there and you're not motivated to get back to the standard, like, then you're a weak link, and then you need to be either coached heavily or like find another way to like or to light the fire. But like, 'cause like, again, like, you want, at the end of the day, you want guys that show up and know the standard and hold the standard. So like, if we don't know what player shows up every day, if you're hot and cold or you're 97 and 92%, whatever it ends up being, you're a distraction. So you're not helping the team. You're hurting the coach. Not hurting the coach, but like you're not a waste of energy, but you're a distraction. Yeah. So like, that's how, like, and as a coach, I don't know fully how to hold that. Like, I just know what I just try and find a standard when I'm coaching now. And if I see somebody fall below it, I'll coach them compassionately. If they do it again, I'll coach them hard. And then at some point, like, I think everybody knows when the coach stops coaching you, like, you're probably on your way out the door or on your way out the starting lineup. Yeah. So, that gets over illustrated in football, because like when the coach stops coaching you, like, you're probably gonna go meet with the GM, like those kind of things. So, that it's amplified in the professional sports world, but I think with younger athletes, I haven't been around a lot of like high school and lower, but in college, like, kids are very aware when they're getting coached and when they're not. And then like when you can see some guys withdraw, and I don't think that's a sign of mental toughness, but so like I still think there's room to coach all those guys, so don't get that twisted. But it's just I don't know, I still don't know how to, as a full coach of a head coach of a team or a coach of a soccer team or anything like that, I haven't had to deal with the whole team dynamic, so I'm kind of speaking from inexperience. But I just feel like the effort standard, like, if you guys can make, like, I have this bit now where, like, if you can make effort the control and everything else the variables, that solves a lot of problems. Because now, like, when you win or lose a game, it doesn't matter if you know the whole team tried or team held the standard of that. Then, like, now, like, you reassess your strategy, you reassess. I'm not even going to try and talk soccer. But I
want to hear you try that. Yeah. I already heard wrestling.
Well, we had maybe
it can't be any worse. Maybe you should head towards baseball.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Yeah. But
like,
who's on first?
Yeah. But yeah, like, it's easier to. I feel like it's easier to be a coach if you know at least the effort's there. Yeah. So effort would be non-negotiable to me, or coach very hard, or all my weapons go towards effort, and then solve that problem first in the training camps or whatever. And then now we'll solve all the other stuff as we evolve through the season, because like injuries happen, all these things happen. But like, regardless, everybody meets the effort standard, all that can be coached and assessed. But if you win or lose a game and you have to think about, oh, was this guy trying? Was he not trying? Did he quit there? Like, then now there's way too many problems.
You know, just not to play devil's advocate, but just to get us thinking about something else. One of my a mentor of mine who now coaches at a very high level, he said one of the most impactful things anyone ever said to him. He said he was leaving a program, and he got a note from his player. He said, "Hey, thanks for turning this program into an actual Division I program. It was a small D1." And he said, "But I want to give you one little message." He's like, really soft kids can be good at baseball too. And so you got to learn how to coach them. So where I'm pushing though is that I don't know. I'm just, you know, I'm assuming in an NFL locker room there are some uber talented people that don't always give the effort that you may want or desire. And I think that's where coaching comes in. How do you meet this uber talented person that may be a little bit soft or may not be that coachable or may come late to meetings every now and then? Like, navigating that journey to me is always very, very intriguing, because I think we all can reflect on people we know who are super talented. Maybe the strongest guy could walk in that gym and they're not that hard of a worker. And so how do you handle that person, right? Because as coaches, I think we're wired. Most people get into coaching because we do like effort, we do like toughness, we do like these things. But you will meet a soft person who's really talented. You will meet someone who's really talented who doesn't work that hard. And then as a coach, what do you do with that? So, anyways, that's just a thought.
That's an absolute great point. I talked a lot about this with my buddy Nate Ebner, because like there's a lot of guys in the NFL that don't have the work, but like I know what got me to where I was, so like I default to that.
That's right.
And like I've seen coaches butt heads with players, or like be mad that they don't practice the whole week, or develop the chemistry with the quarterback and these type of things throughout the week, but like those guys still show up on
They
Sunday.
still ball out.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the dynamic of pro sports is different, because a lot of times some of these guys that aren't doing those things are making 5x the money that the coach is, maybe 10x.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so I guess the coach needs some grace, but still needs to understand the standard. Like it can be done. Like Bill Belichick, I've talked a lot of Patriots over time, and like there's no guys that like they run hill sprints after practice. Unheard of in the NFL.
Like everyone.
Tom Brady, everyone.
So you would argue, though, then that he didn't let up on his standard, which is why he built greatness.
Yeah, so like that.
He didn't let motherfuckers slide.
Yeah, that's the logic in my head, and also the inexperience as a coach. But if something can be done or replicated, but now it's like if you're not that type of coach that can hold that type of standard too, there's a million ways to win. You can be a player's coach, you can be a dickhead, you can be all these things. Like all these people have found different ways to win. So yeah, I don't think that like coaching is a one size fits all. But if I was a coach, I'd find the effort standard. But then I would be incredibly frustrated by the guys that don't practice as well. So like maybe I'd deal with those guys with more compassion, because I found out the stick doesn't work.
You said something there that I think is really powerful. I think a lot of it is just that self-awareness to know where you default to.
Yeah.
So I think where coaches get in trouble, myself included, is when we have those blind spots and we just double down on this. But we're all humans, and we're dealing with individuals who are humans as well. So just being aware that, hey, I default to effort. This is kind of my extreme. As a player, I had to hustle, grind to get there, but some other guys didn't. So anyways,
yeah.
I think it's just knowing that. You're not compromising your values then necessarily, but you are aware that, hey, when I know where I normally go when I'm not thinking. So I think that's a really powerful thing you said there.
Yeah, and I've seen some coaches do it different ways too. Like even though they not coddle, but like they allow some things to slide in the standard. Like I don't want to drop names and throw guys under the bus, but guys that wouldn't practice all the time, in the team meeting they make it very known that like the standard is practicing hard, conditioning, doing these X, Y, and Z, and then like basically targeting those guys that are accomplishing not practicing or living the effort standard. They still make it known that it's looked down upon, but then they still. It's hard to balance guys with injuries, because like some guys have different toughness aspects of injury and what's injured, what's hurt, and those things, like what really takes you out of practice and what doesn't, and that's where guys have gray area to coddle themselves. But if they know they're great and the coach knows they're great, like let's get them to Sunday. Those kind of things show up. But like I think
it's such a different vibe than like college sports or high school, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, I mean,
it's that you can have different messages, but like at the end of the day, like some of these guys are a massive part of the franchise. So it's just it takes some give and take, I think. But as long as you keep reinforcing the standard, like that's at least a little win, as opposed to like the locker room and the like lack of trust in the coach, because the coach says all this stuff, but he doesn't say anything to this guy and this guy. So like, do I have to do that? But like, then I also know as a professional, like I don't get that right. Like I got here on grit. I didn't get here.
know how you got there.
Yeah, I didn't get here on sacking the quarterback. Yeah. So
and my last thing that I'll get, I don't want to cannibalize this thing, but I do think that's part of it. Even high school, college. I mean, sometimes you'll have stars that don't follow quite the script. But I do think that's the key. They don't become the leaders, the people that you gravitate toward. You end up praising the behaviors that you like and you want. But you also know in my sport, you need these guys hitting home runs.
You got to win.
Yeah, you have to. and I think if you, the more I do anything, just having that vulnerability, having the courage to just speak the truth and just say, hey, because the people understand too. Like I think when you get your locker room right, you get your culture right, you know that this person is going to help you win. So those people are willing to put up a little bit more from them, but we're not going to celebrate that. They're not the person that's going to talk in front of the team all the time. You're not going to praise that person's performance. You're going to praise the practice squad guy who went really hard. But I think I don't want to think it's just pro sports. I think everybody deals with stars that have a little bit of prima donna in them. And
for sure.
Anyways.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variables there too. But like I think coaches do control certain parts of how those players are viewed. I think, again, me personally, this is my own personal opinion. I think the coaches that make those players captains, like coaches control the captains to some extent. Except I really like Ohio State's model that I talked to Colin about yesterday. But like, if you're going to if you're truly about your culture and your standard, and you're making a guy that doesn't do the standard a captain because he's the biggest name on the team, issue. And then so maybe him not being a captain spurs him on a little bit, or he retreats and you have to do another tactic, whatever. But like the Ohio State thing I talked with Colin about is they have this black shirt model, and Dustin, you can probably speak on it better than I can, but they're not technically captains, are they? The black shirt stuff?
No, it's different than a team captain. It's basically every preseason, whenever the gear is given out, they'll designate who the guys on the team that were called the black shirts, and those are the only guys that are allowed to wear the black shirts in the practice room, in the weight room, and stuff like that. And then, so it's recognizing them that they do everything right, and then they're a leader. Now, normally it usually is probably the best guys on the team, but not always.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those things, like once, let's say that if we're looking at our coaching staff right now, and like let's say that me and G start out as the black shirts, and then that first season we bring Treadwell on to recognize the effort he's put in. Well, then next season we're ready to bring another black shirt into the fold. We sit and talk about it and we vote on it. So it's a decision not from the coaching staff, but from the leaders on the team. And so then not only is it recognizing that they are a leader and they've done everything right, but now they're expected, like, hey, now that you're a black shirt, you gotta hold these gray shirts accountable. So like maybe you were a quiet leader before, you can't be the same quiet leader you were, prior to that.
Yeah, and I was told that, like, so if you three are the black shirts, it has to be unanimous to bring somebody else in.
Yes.
And then also the black shirts vote on the black shirts, whether you stay or not. Yeah, so like complacency gets tested.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tom instituted all that.
Yeah.
I thought that was because
yeah.
because in football, like, yeah, like the unanimous thing got my wheels spinning a lot, because like in football, in college we had a leadership council. We're voted upon, the highest 10 vote getters are the leadership council, and then that's what it is for the rest of the year. And there's no constant turnover, there's no re-voting, and it's not unanimous, because like probably half the team got votes in some way, shape, or form, but like, it was just the highest vote getter. So like I like that unanimous, like undoubtedly these are the leaders, these are the guys you come to, and these are the guys that hold the standard, and you're constantly under review, and then everybody else is under review, because I would like to be a black shirt if I'm on the team.
I like the visible aspect of it too. Like, you can look around the room at any time, you see who has the black shirts on. So it's never something that kind of like fades from memory, because you see it every single day in practice.
And that's the practice gear. It's black or gray.
Yep.
Interesting.
I like the ability.
So that's one of the, not to cut you off,
you're
but
good.
That's one of the things that I told, my guy Clay. He was a walk-on at Ohio State. He's in his third year there. And I told him, I said, there's kids that come in with goals of being a national champion. That's not Clay's goal, because we know that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I said, one of your goals should be, by the time you leave here, you should have the black shirt. And he's the type of kid that will. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that happens before he's done there.
Yeah, because his work ethic's so crazy.
Because of the work ethic, exactly.
And that would be a huge honor.
It'd be huge, because everyone's going to remember that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like the ability to tangibilize like the intangibles, like leadership. Very hard to talk about, tangibilize, and like guarantee that this person's a leader. Like that's a visual way to do it. Same with like mental skills. Like how do you tangibilize a mental skill? We tried to do that with the breath, and like give you tools to like whatever tangibilize your CO2 tolerance or your anxiety tolerance or the state you're in. Just the tangibility of things is massive. So I really like that view on leadership, is like making it a color.
That would be cool for your program, Mike.
Oh man,
right?
There's a lot. That's phenomenal. I mean, I think it puts a mark to just about anybody can get that black shirt.
Yeah.
Meaning it's not going to be the guy who's just gifted that can throw 95 miles an hour or whatever. It's if you work, if you put in the time, and if you embody the values of the program, you get in, right? So
I like that.
I thought that was really special.
Yeah. I'm interested. The breath piece. Chasing edges is kind of your thing, and personally, and then as a coach, I've heard Mike Gervais, you know the name at all. Anyways, he's a great pod. You should check him out. But anyways, he talks about you can train the body, the craft, so you can get physically stronger. You can train your craft, and then the mind. And the mind's kind of this new frontier. And for myself, this is very selfish, but I think people can get something out of this. As coaches, we struggle teaching the mind, the mental game, the breath. Can you? I don't know if you could. This is a big ask. But could you put in a package how coaches can incorporate the mental game, mental growth into the day-to-day, right? Where it's not like a thing, it's something you do every day. I mean, my last thing is I think every coach out there knows how important the mental piece is, but myself included, we don't know how to teach it. So
well, because sometimes can you coach guys that can step up in the big moment
Right.
and are composed, and other guys that aren't, and then how do you go? Well, this is how you switch from this guy to that guy. Is that what you? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, right. Exactly.
The game, it's like that gamer mentality
Instead
of like, this guy always produces in those moments, and this guy really doesn't. So what is that difference?
Exactly, because like with the body, we know, right? Get in there in
Yeah.
the weight room, like this,
Yeah.
do this. With skills, you can go out there and do some drills, but that mental piece, all we say is he's a gamer or he's not, or she's a gamer, she's not. So anyway, can you start walking us down that and in any way give us a bit of a blueprint?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And like that's kind of how our business started. Was my business partner, he washed out of the minor leagues because he got the yips in baseball, which obviously massive mental.
Had those on
block.
the golf course too.
Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah.
What are the yips? What are the
It's where you can't either throw like a small throw or hit
throw a
sideways.
strike. It's like in Major League when the catcher couldn't throw it back to the pitcher, and he kept throwing it. Like he's very capable of the flow, but he has a mental block and like a physiological block on completing a simple task.
There's a famous one for Chuck
Chuck
Knobloch.
Knobloch,
Couldn't
the
throw
second
it from
baseman.
second base to first base.
He started getting ground balls, and you see from catchers a lot. Catchers, they can throw it all the way to second base. If a guy steals, they can get up and do it. But getting the ball back to the pitcher, you see guys go.
It's like a mental block. Like he couldn't throw it from here to the door.
And now is it because they're so focused on the big things that then when the little things happen, like what?
It's
anyway,
it's
yeah.
unexplainable,
It was-
and we kind of try like we've helped people with the yips, with the breath work and the exposure and those kind of things. So the frustration from my business partner and then frustration from myself on like I was very smart in the meeting room. Obviously, like I had the physical tools and the work ethic and those kind of things, but sometimes I couldn't put it together on the field, and like that becomes a problem with a lot of guys in the NFL because some of the jobs aren't very complex, but like you don't have the control of your state, and so people think of that as mental skills as controlling your mind, and that's where you think that's the problem. Like I can't control my mind here, and here. So we tried to tangibilize that, same as like a black shirt concept. Basically, like we view mental skills like psychology as being unresolved physiology. So if you can learn the language of the physiology, learn how to control your state with your breath, with your vision, understanding what stimulates you, what upregulates you, downregulates you, those kind of things, it gives you a tool and a mental skill as opposed to the intangible view on mental skills in sports right now where goal setting, visualization, fear setting, all these things and all the repetitions there. Yeah, I think those things work too, but it's hard to say like after this at bat, did my visualization and my goal setting work? I think it did. I don't know if it did. Like we tried to tangibilize that. So now we have tools to measure guys' anxiety tolerance and like kind of get a gas gauge on where you all are physiologically. And like all these things agitate your mental state. So like if you're high respiratory rate, anxiety, but regardless, like CO2 tolerance and anxiety tolerance show up in the brainstem as the same thing as carbon dioxide. So you're like, there's a reason why like physically fit people like aren't as depressed and anxious and those kind of things because they naturally have conditioned themselves to have a higher CO2 tolerance. People don't, people just don't see it that way. And so maybe that's why a lot of unhealthy people are more prone to those things. But regardless of the fact, it shows up in sport and the big moments and those type of things where like you haven't physiologically taken yourself to those states, which is what we try and mimic in exhale holds and things like that. You take you to a stressful state where suffocation's a real fear, and you train that tolerance. And it's like alcohol tolerance. The more you drink, the more you can drink. The more you can tolerate CO2, the more in shape you can be long term. We have a lot of guys max.
You need to put him under the ice.
Yeah,
But
so like that, the ice is the ice is a modality for us to create stress. We call that our stadium. Like we're trying to get you in a very stressful state, and then we're going to teach you to control your breath in that state. We're going to teach you tools to control your breath in the state. So now, if I control my state and environment, like I have a chance to succeed. Mm-hmm. And so, like if you control your breath and environment, you can own the environment. You control your breath and position. Same in the weight room, you can own the position. But if you can't, like that's a problem. You're going to lose your brace. You're going to like get in your head. But like so now, like the psychology, mental skill side of it now is. We use this example of the brain as a fist. It's kind of like a Buddha thing, but like this is your brain stem, this is your brain. Your brain's chopped up into 3 parts. The brain stem, which is like your lizard brain reacting to the environment, autonomic nervous system, things like that. In the middle is your limbic system, which is like we share it with other mammals, territorial, protect our young, emotional reactions, those kind of thing. But now we have like the human gift, which makes us really good at sports, decision making, communication, things like that. But like what happens when you lose control your physiology, respiratory rate, heart rate skyrocket. You lose problem solving because blood flows to protect itself from the prefrontal cortex into the limbic system. You become reactive. We use this bit in MindStrong all the time where, like, if you're arguing with your wife and you tell her to calm down, it never works because she's limbic. She's not.
Why are you crying?
Yeah.
Quit crying.
Yeah. But she's not solving problems, and it shows up when you're low energy, like in rush hour traffic. Nobody's solving problems, but like I'd have you run 1500s and have you solve a math problem. Like, you're not capable. You don't have blood flow there to keep solving the problem. So performance anxiety and stress and those things take away your problem solving skills. So if you're walking into the box in a big moment and you're not in control of your physiology, you don't have a chance to control your psychology. So that's how we view mental skills. And I think it's very functional because now we're talking about, instead of like organizing my brain to be this killer in this moment, it's just controlling my physiology to keep all my wits about me and my decision making and mental skills.
So if you were to take over our program, one of the things you would do, I mean, this would be a big part of what you do.
Yeah.
Like, most people think of mental skills as kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
What I mean? But this would be like a.
Yeah, but we teach it through physical things, and you see it improve, and then we can show you that we can change your blood.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do an exhale hold, and you do a max walk. And then when you have to breathe, you stop. And I like to do it on a football field, so you see the distance you covered. So maybe I made it 25 yards the first time. You go back, and then we'll give you 5-10 reps. And by the end, you've 2x'd, if not 3-4x'd your distance. So you understand you've created a tolerance to carbon dioxide, which in turn is a improvement of your anxiety and stress tolerance. So, and then now you can go down rabbit holes and train that very hard while being smart on the body. The real cool thing for me, we put the wrestlers through a bunch of breath work, and these guys can hold their breath because they live in this dark place of training and crazy conditioning.
Yeah.
So they naturally have higher CO2 tolerance.
That was probably kind of fun for you too.
Yeah, it was really
right?
cool. I'm just running my own experiments all the time.
Yeah.
But so now I'm not their stress should be higher, but they have an incredibly stressful, high performance sport too, where they're going to that dark place constantly, and now recovery becomes a metric and those things. But I like to see all that stuff show up and play with it. But once you understand that you can control your state, is the moral of the story. There's a bunch of ways to play with the training, but guys now have a tool to I know I'm anxious, and we try and get guys into feel, whether that's the ice and the cold or the breath work to suffocation concept. Once you get into your field, now I'm in the batter's box. I know it's a big moment. Let's get CO2 out. CO2 is a problem. Things like that. Let's get oxygen in. If I can't feel my fingers on a fastball because this deep into an inning, I need to get oxygen to my fingers. How do I do that? I need to get CO2 out.
And then recognizing that's huge.
Yeah. So it's just it's a level of awareness for a player, but it's also nobody's ever coached you to breathe. Coach, hey, breathe. Okay. How? Yeah. And so those things just it's just we just think it's a missing pillar of performance, and it's proven very valuable for a lot of baseball players in particular. Hockey guys like it in between shift to down regulate, because now you have more energy than the next guy who's over there mouth breathing, not dumping CO2, not doing anything to improve his state. So maybe I get 7% energy more back than my opponent, and that stacks up over the game, and now I'm winning. At least I have a better chance to win. So that's how we view it. But I think it's a cool mental skill.
Good, D.
Well, I got a couple things for you, but the first thing I thought of is, and I've gotten into some Twitter arguments with,
Here we go.
With wrestling coaches and parents and stuff over this, because I wrote an article before which kind of contradicted what I used to teach my guys. I used to teach my guys, in between sprints or whatever, I'm like, hand over your head, and that's a stress position, right?
Yep.
Well, then once I read about how that's stretching the diaphragm, it's a stress position. I'm like, okay, no, now I coach my guys, lean over, put your hands on your knees. Well, anytime I write something about that,
there ain't one old wrestling coach that believes that.
The wrestling Twitter world comes out. They're like, if I see that, that's mental weakness. I'm like, no, it is not mental weakness, because my guys know they're recovering better in between goes. And so anytime they do that, I'll send them a picture of Colin, because once I taught Colin that, you would see every time they went out of bounds, anything before they'd restart, he'd be there, bent over, hands on his knees, breathing in deep. That's okay. Well, it sure worked for Colin Moore. He had a relentless motor on the mat. But according to this old school way of thinking, and I say old school in a bad way, they would think, oh, that's showing a weakness. I'm like, I don't get it. It's different when it's you're bent over and you can't stand up.
Yeah.
That looks like weakness to me. But I think when you're strategically doing these things because like you said, maybe he's going to recover 7% more in between every go, that stacks up over the course of a match.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I think, one thing is just, I guess I just wanted to bring that up, is knowing how to recover properly and how to maybe take yourself out of these stressful positions, like being mentally aware of those things in the moment is very important. And then the other thing I want to talk about, is kind of you as a coach. I don't know anything about you as a football coach because I'm not a football guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have been coaching me on the breath work and on the meditation stuff, working with me and my guys, and I think you're an excellent coach. And now something I think that you do very well, and we're going to kind of tie this back into strength training, is I think that you're talking about a lot of concepts and even like body parts that I should know and I don't know, but you do a good job of like kind of like explaining them in layman's terms, even though you're telling us complicated physiological processes. And it reminds me of in strength training, there's kind of there's a saying like, hey, know that it's a quadricep, but just call it a thigh. Yeah. Like you don't have to big word everyone to death.
Yeah.
And it's something I hate about strength coaches out there, that a lot of them, they want to big word everyone to death. And I always think, I don't have to try to like teach an anatomy course to like this kid that I'm training. Like, yes, I understand the science behind it. I need to just give him the bare minimum so he understands. So maybe talk about that a little bit with you, coaching the breath work and stuff. How do you kind of juggle like getting them to understand why they're doing it, but not really beating them over the head with science? But you can't just say like, hey, breathe in, hold your breath, bro, you'll feel better. I mean, you gotta give them something.
Like
touch on that a little bit.
No, it's come with repetition for me, and then Harvey's been doing it for 5 years, so I get some of his verbiage from it, but we also work on it where I can't keep saying sympathetic, parasympathetic to these kids. Like it's rest and digest, fight and flight. Like now it's a refining process with the repetition for me, and then like I know the power of storytelling to like get a point across, or like tell about a mental skill that helped me. So I tell this story of how I found breath work and I knew it helped me with conditioning. So like now it makes sense. So like I just try and story tell, and then just it's not even like a dumb it down. It's just like how can I get to this point incredibly simply and like without having like, so if I say sympathetic, how much more do I have to say after that? Well, I just shouldn't say that. I should start down here.
It's more relatable.
Yeah,
dude.
and then and you just want.
You don't want them to shut off. You have to relate to them so that they want to take it in and understand.
No,
it, right?
and like the skill, like there's probably 15 different concepts that lead into like breathe less. Like the best athletes, the goal is to breathe less. Like you see it. Also, I give the fighting example. Like when a guy burns out in a fight. Like he's mouth breathing, he's hunched over, he's breathing into his shoulders, all these things. I can give you all these warning signs.
Everyone knows that, but I don't think people know why they know that. So that's like something, all the UFC guys, he's mouth breathing, he's tired. But then you're like, but what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people even know why they think that they know that. You know?
But now if you just look at it logically, like I don't want to be that guy. So how do I not be that guy? So, okay, so what's a benefit to not being, or like, how do I not be that guy? Well, let's start with just lung capacity. Like if I have more access to my full lung, which a lot of us don't because we're sitting and our ribs get tied down and our psoas is messed up, or we don't have a strong diaphragm, all these things that I don't want to bore you with. How do I get to that point as fast as possible? Like, well, if I have more access in a bigger lung, now it takes longer to fill it up and longer to empty it. So now my respiratory rate went down. So I'm breathing less. So let's get you access to your lungs. Let's get you incredibly tolerant to CO2, and then see what kind of savage you are. So like now I just try and get to that point where like breathe less. Like we'll teach you how to down regulate and breathe less and rest, and then and like we actually have a bunch of training metrics or training protocols that get you to breathe less because you actually are more tolerant to CO2 too. So like, but like the goal is to like that whole bit is just to tell you to breathe less like a UFC fighter. Yeah.
I think that one of the things that was incredibly beneficial for me when I came down and did the Fire and Ice was understanding box breathing, which is probably the most like square one basic breathing technique you can explain. So maybe you just want to give it like a 101 real quick on that. It's kind of cool.
No, just like like even before the box breathing, that kind of thing is just respiratory rate in general. Like it's like low resting heart rates indicative of great performance or high performance and those kind of things. Same as low respiratory rate. The whole goal of the box breath is to get you to breathe less.
Got it.
So like initially, like we just slow your breath and balance your breath, like in for 4, out for 4. And so now, like, because like if
the hold is what got really, like when I went in 4, held 4, breathed out 4, held at the bottom 4, or whatever you coached, I didn't even feel that ice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like
there's like a meditative quality to it too.
For sure. And I had never been coached, well, ever in breath, but to even know like, the top and the bottom end, there's a lot of value in those holds and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a transition of oxygen and CO2, but like that's not like it turns into a down regulatory thing because you're breathing. So one of your breaths is only taking 16 seconds now. So you're breathing four breaths a minute. Like that's telling your system that you're calm and safe. And then especially if you're coming in through the nose, because again, because that's a restful, relaxing tone to the brainstem. The mouth is fight and flight. The nose is rest and digest. Like I want it to, in a stressful environment where I know my heart rate doesn't have to be up, I'm going to use every tone, whether it's my peripheral vision, my nose, and the length of my inhales, exhales, holds, all those kind of things. If all that is slow, my brain will think it's safe. And that's all I want.
There, right there, Mike. Take that home, boy.
I'm out.
Yeah, so like that's just the goal of that stuff. But like, yeah, just like control your breath, because like again, like one of our bits is like every breath can help or hurt you.
Yeah.
Like there's more benefits to the nose than the mouth, so I should breathe through my nose all day. That'll like the resistance to the nose is going to slow down my breath. So all those things just lead to, instead of breathing 22,000 times a day, which is terrible, maybe I breathe 20, and then eventually my mouth breathing actually gets too much oxygen in, so you actually lose circumference to like your veins and arteries because there's too much oxygen available, which inhibits performance.
It's gonna mess up my vascularity.
Yeah.
Talk about the real stuff.
I'm trying to maximize the vascularity.
That's what we're
I
really
want that
here
bicep
for.
vein.
Yeah, boy.
But yeah, like those things just compound. So like breathe less all day, and then so if I breathe right all day, I have a chance to breathe right in performance. But if I breathe like shit all day, there's not a chance I'm going to breathe right in performance. So like it's just a simple metric or a simple perspective on like life and how to live and how to be optimally healthy. But like honestly, like if you're an incredibly out of shape human, you should start by just breathing through your nose all day, and you'd be shocked at the benefits and the outcome, because it's hard. And like, because you'll constantly, like you can watch like an exciting TV show and you'll like get into it and default to mouth breathing because your heart rate's going up. Yeah, just crazy things like that, or like little stresses default to mouth. Eating like shit in your stomach because your body uses oxygen as like anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral. Like a treatment for COVID is like the ozone therapy. Like oxygen is paramount, and it starts like, so if you have a problem in your stomach because you're eating food allergies or shitty food, your body's going to get more oxygen to solve the problem, mouth breathing problem. So just like little things like that compound.
It's unreal when you start going down the true rabbit hole of somebody that understands it, right? It's crazy.
But like your firing pattern can technically start with your diaphragm and your pelvic floor, leads to like good firing mechanics from the psoas to the glute, things like that. It's just like, it's a really good foundational point to start in your health, and then life and fitness, and then optimal performance. It's an incredible tool once you learn how to use it.
I want to ask about being coached for a second.
Yeah.
We heard how you like to be coached. Doesn't mean that's how you was coached
along
the way,
no
right?
doubt.
So talk to me about like maybe it doesn't have to say a name, but like a way that you were coached as a pro that you disliked. And then in college, I always think like, I look at a guy like Pat Fitzgerald and think I would want to play for a guy like that, right? Now I didn't play for him, so I don't know exactly, but I see like, can you like give like, hey, this was like an environment I was in that was unbelievable. If maybe you did have that or didn't have it, and this is an environment I was in, I know I didn't want to stay in or like. Is there like I guess some main points of why?
Yeah. I'm trying to find good examples.
Yeah.
I guess what I like, I do like be able to talk to my coaches like in like
open concept.
Like an open concept. But like if I and I don't know how I feel. I really haven't talked about this before, but like if I can't walk by my coach in a hallway and not feel like incredibly awkward, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like I didn't like that about having a coach I couldn't communicate with. Like I do hope there's open lines of communication between a coach, so I can say like, hey, like this is going wrong, or if I can't test a coach and say, hey, like why are we not attacking this fish on their punt team? And if I can't say that, like now I'm just eating it and building resentment and those kind of things. Yeah. Or I'm just like, all right, like one of the worst parts of my day is walking by this coach in the hallway because I know he's just like not going to make it. Like, I don't know, like that might be some of my like insecurities coming up. It really doesn't fucking matter. But those kind of things, like I just want open lines of communication with my coach, and
you need to feel like it's open.
Yeah,
not like it's fake open.
Yeah, fake open, and like coaches are good at different things and those kind of things. But like the environments where I could like legitimately communicate my concerns, what I like those kind of things, like just help me as a player to develop. And I whether I was getting coached hard or soft, like it didn't matter as long as I could communicate what was happening. And then like Coach Fitz, he's like, I have massive respect for guys that are in the trenches with you. Like Fitz Fitz would
He
come.
reminds me of like a Vrabel type of guy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He would get in the drills, like he'd scream and chirp and those kind of
Hell
things,
yeah.
and he'd coach me hard and those kind of things too, and set the standard and like not break me down, but like attack me in team meetings and know that I'm like a standard holder. So like that's not good enough. Yeah, I know that's not good enough. Let the good talk, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I use it progressively because nobody in sports is perfect. Like perfection is a problem in sports. Like the goal is growth, and the goal is like again to be the best player you can be. And I think perfect inhibits a lot of those guys. But I don't think a lot of coaches strive for perfection. I think they understand it. Some coaches get caught up in like on paper in football, everybody's blocked as an offensive play. So like, but like when you have a defensive coach break it down, like everybody on their piece of paper is blocked. Like somebody in this room has to beat somebody's ass to make a play. And that's a realistic way to look at the thing. And like, I was like, cause like you can say, sorry coach, I got blocked, but like, that's not good enough. So like, I like those like realistic views of performance that were translated by coaches. Vrabes was incredible at that. So I really liked being coached by him, and he, like you could basically say anything in team meeting room from any part of life, or like the linebacker room, any part of life, and he'd respond in some way, shape, or form. Like he's
good, bad, or indifferent. He's good at
he's an alpha that likes to talk and those kind of things too. But like if you legit, he won't leave anybody behind. Like he'll try and catch you up, and like if constantly asking you questions until you get it right isn't working for you, he'll work with you on one-on-one and things like that. So he has his own process, but like I really liked Vrabel's meeting room. Excuse me. We had another coach that came in that was a nicer human after him, and I enjoyed the open lines of communication, but it also it wasn't as, and I don't want to bury him either, but it wasn't as insightful.
Yeah.
And I'd ask questions, and sometimes there'd be like gray area answers. So just as a coach, like I'd like those people to know like thoroughly what they want. And if they don't, say, now let me ask the DC, I'll come back to you. Because if there is gray area, I'm a cut and dry person, especially on some, like there's fits on different runs and things like that have some gray area where you have to, like as a player, you want to know, or the coach can solve the problem, or the coaches can solve the problem for you. I don't know if I answered the question very well, but
I think you did.
But yeah, like I just, it's the same as like strength coaches and those kind of things. Like I fucking love being coached by you because you're in the fucking weeds with me. I love boxing and running with him and listening to him about his approach to that because he's in the weeds with me. And like, yeah, football coaches can't put the helmet on and go there with you. But maybe they can relate with stories from other players that are in your position, or they can speak on their own experience because they were a player. And like, I relate better to that. Like I don't look down on like one of my best coaches, honestly, actually, I forgot, I'll not forget about him, but Adam Zimmer, he's Mike Zimmer's son, was my linebacker coach in Minnesota, and like never played the sport before, doesn't look the part, those kind of things. But he looked so realistically at the sport and understood like if this technique works for you, use it. It's not what I coach, but you can use it. Like
if the result's there.
Yeah, and then like on those gray area plays, he goes, yeah, you could have gone both ways. We're gonna look at this as coaches and come back to you and give you an answer and a solution. Incredible coach.
So you ended up respecting him, even though he didn't get the respect because he was not a formal player.
He wasn't in the trenches, didn't look the part.
That'd probably be hard.
But his mind was special. His approach and compassion were special. And when he got mad at you, it kind of was funny when he cussed you out because he wasn't really mad. He's just like, "What the fuck are you doing, you stupid little dumbass?" Shit like that. Like it just like that. I respected his realistic view because like again like we can make sports what they're not sometimes and make it life and death when you get this or not. But like really all we're trying to do as coaches and players, we're all on the same team trying to solve the same problems. Mm-hmm. So let's solve the problems together. And he was really good at that. And I like that a lot.
It's good.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to stick on that for 1 minute because I know a lot of coaches, myself included, who end up coaching athletes who are better than they were, right? And I think you said earlier about Vrabel, he had instant equity because of what he did as a player. And you mentioned Zim's son just a touch as well. So if you could give some advice to somebody, and I know you gave a little bit there, but if you get, because it's what happened to yourself too, right? If you're as good as you were, you'll end up coaching maybe a linebacker who's a all-pro or whatever.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, so
a lot of football players were way better than me.
Yeah. So
I coach a lot of lifters that are way better than me.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
But how do you? What advice would you give those coaches, right? That are trying to earn that equity, and they don't have the chops to be able to go in there and physically move you. But whatever. So what would you say?
So I honestly I had a really, really good mentor in college that did this incredibly. He's actually he's the college scout for the Philadelphia Eagles. I actually stopped and saw him when I went through Charlotte recently. But he did a great job of being incredibly curious for me. And he gave me metrics for me to match up against the other best players in the country. So he's a GA, like he was coaching high school football, and he goes, I want to coach college. You kind of want to get in the NFL. His name's Alan Walking. He's an incredible human. And he looks at the world really realistically. But so he couldn't give me experience. He couldn't give me technique and skill, but he could evaluate in other great players. So he found a way. He made me sheets. So after my last 2 seasons, he was there my sophomore and junior year of college. I broke down 5 of my own games. And we had metrics for like agility, physicality, leadership, all these things. I actually still have one of the sheets. But it was like 8 or 10 metrics. So I broke down myself, gave myself numerical scores, graded myself out, and he did the same thing for me through his eyes. So we come together and we saw the disparities in our sheets where I thought I had something wrong, or like I thought I was really good and he didn't. And we talked about it, and we very open line of communication. And then now I went and did all the first team, all league around, like first team all SEC, ACC, Pac-10, Big Ten. Like I broke down 3 of their games and gave numerical metrics. And then we went, then after the draft, we did like the top 5 safeties in the draft, their metrics and what were the disparity. So like it's funny that I actually played with some players I broke down.
That's amazing.
Like the Harrison Smiths and those kind of things. And so like
what a cool exercise.
Really cool exercise. But like he was like he couldn't give me that, so he found a way to give me that.
Yeah.
And it was like, and for curiosity for a player that's better than me, like if I had to coach JJ Watt, like what the hell do I do? I find other great players that are in his eyes on his level, and like find a skill they used. Maybe, hey, try this skill. JJ likes to watch Reggie White and knows that Reggie White was his age when he got to Green Bay, so he thinks he has a relationship there. If I'd talk to my player and learn that, hey, these are the great moves that Reggie White did. Let's try and add this move to your skill package or whatever. Or I talk to a specialist, like, or in baseball, like this throwing specialist. Like now I'm being curious for him. Hey, this guy that coaches Verlander does this with his guy. Let's try this. Let's improve your skill set with another master or something. Like if I don't feel capable of doing that, like I'll find somebody that's capable and create a relationship and add to the network. I don't know.
You know what I hear there? I hear it's if you make it all about the player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's humility.
Because I've heard this, that athletes really don't care who's coaching them, as long as they know that they're going to make them better, right? Like especially at the pro level.
Yeah.
Like they want to get paid, right? So if I can add value to that person by whatever, having these different conversations, like the athlete's going to listen in. So anyways, but if you make it all about them and care for them.
Yeah, it's caring and trust, and trust is massive between a player and a coach. I don't think I've lost bits of trust when like a guy can't give me an answer or things like that, or doesn't go solve the problem and bring it back. Now it's just like a little bit of loss, those kind of things. But like, I mean, who knows, like, about the Urban situation in Jacksonville, like he lost trust. So now, like, what's the communication inside of the team? So now, like, the team's fighting itself. It's not fighting what's outside of the team. So, like, now you have a detriment to the optimal performance of the team. So, like, how do you just keep the team together and solve problems for them so that they don't have to fight inside themselves, or lose trust inside of themselves? I guess that's kind of how I view it from like a leadership standpoint.
Like it, Troy.
So I got 2 things. So we talked about you getting like super like mental, breaking everything down, the breath work, and that takes you to a very peaceful place. And you have that great quote that I always butcher. It's like
I butchered it 3 times in the podcast before I got it right. Yeah.
Please.
Basically, what it says is you have
paraphrase.
to be capable of great violence to be capable of great peace.
Yeah.
So when I watched you take a squat yesterday, there was no peace there.
Yeah.
That was all violence. So talk about flipping that on its head. You know, you're going from a peaceful state to, all right, this fucking savage is going to come out and I'm gonna do it. Because that's probably what happened on the football field. Like when you're on the sidelines, you're trying to breathe and and remain calm. But then when you get on the field, you don't want to be calm. You want to go kill somebody.
Yeah, guaranteed. The quote is you can't call yourself peaceful unless you're capable of great violence. If you're not capable of great violence, you're actually harmless, not peaceful. Like I still think you like even if you're not capable of violence, you're still capable of great peace as like a person and a human kind of deal. But like in that concept, like yeah, like I think nobody should be one thing all day. Like nobody should be the savage that's on the football field, and then like it's just like masks. That's kind of my bit and how I view it. Like when I like before I go into a squat, like you'll see me do some breaths and like let's fucking go. I ask for back slaps, whatever it ends up being, but like that mask is going on. But like once the squat's over, that mask needs to come off because I know recovery and like those kind of things are necessary. And it's the same thing. Like you don't like somebody shouldn't bring work home with them to their family. Change the mask. And like I'm just trying to find a way for myself to tangibilize it. And so now it's a switch. And then so it's like me and Brian Cushing talk about this a lot. He put a mask on when he walked into the facility, and then he put another mask on when he stepped on the football field. Like you got foot. Like it's the same. Like Vrabel has this saying, like just be the same person every day. Like in the meeting room, like be the same person. Like if you're gonna show up and be this wishy, like you're gonna be a distraction. Like that was his bit that I used earlier that I've adopted for myself. So like we just want the same person every day, or the same mask in every scenario is what I'm saying. But like you need masks. Like you need the dad mask, you need the coach mask, you need whatever lover, fighter, anything that shows up. But yeah, I just think it's easier for me to transition out of those things when I know I'm putting on a mask. Because like the problem with that is people say you should be the same person in like you should be the same person all day. No, you're not even freaking close.
It's impossible.
You know what I'm thinking about, and this is, I'm going to ask you to speculate here, but you watch like relief pitchers come into the game.
Yeah,
they all have a lot of them have their quirks. You know, they do these. You think that's their way of trying to get a different mask on? Like they're now performing.
I don't watch a lot of relief pitchers. What are you saying?
Like if you watch an MLB,
you're saying almost like a pregame ritual or something like.
Yeah.
When they take the mound, they almost go and like there a lot of them are quirky. Like they'll throw like a lot of times they'll have goggles or they'll they'll get some kind of crazy stance, and it really has nothing to do with like delivering an actual pitch. I'm speculating that they're putting a mask on there. Like they're not performing. Right?
Yeah, but it's and like I say switch, but it can be a process to get into that mask. Same as walking up to a squat. Like I get my breaths. Like I start talking shit to myself.
I love talking shit to myself.
Yeah, but like that's
part.
like that's part. Like we'll call it like the slow mo of me putting the mask on.
Yeah.
But
don't be a little bitch ass hoe.
Yeah, but now I need my belt. Now I need my salts, and now I need to say let's fucking go. Mm-hmm. And then I hit my part of my checklist now is like the form is now part of that. But like yeah, I think everybody has their process to get their mask on or get prepared for performance. I just call it a mask.
Sure.
And so you just want to know your triggers to get into your mask. Like, because I don't think a trigger is a bad thing. Like, you need to know when you need to get into that space.
Wow.
I think, obviously performance anxiety is a huge, detriment to athletes. So I think like obviously the breath work and the meditation and stuff is going to help when they practice that long term. But what do you think is something that maybe young athletes that are listening, that maybe they have trouble performing when the big lights are on? What's something they can do, whether it's because not everyone is going to want to like get smacked on the back and call themselves a pussy or whatever. What's something you think that's very simple? I mean, that might work in the weight room, but it might not work in front of the crowd. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
So whether it's on the football field, whether it's on the wrestling mat, whether it's when they're getting ready to, on the pitching mound, whatever, what do you think is something like a young athlete, whether it's, hey, should they do some box breathing so that like how the box breathing takes your mind off the ice? Is it something like that, or is there something different? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, again, everybody's massively different in relationship.
They got to
with
find
ice.
their own system, right?
So, but like, how do you find your own system? Like, you have to do self-evaluation, self-reflection. So like I promote journaling. I think like you can't measure what you don't track. So we got to tangibilize the performance anxiety. Like, what makes me feel good going into a game, and where am I fearful going into a game? How do I start solving the problem? How was I feeling before this? Like, how did I feel after? Like, you got to treat yourself like an experiment, but like you have to track it in some metric. And it's the same, like, I was talking to one of the wrestlers about it just out here, where like if you like, again, it's really hard to tangibilize all that's going on in your mind, like from day to day and those kind of things. But like you'll never know the mental progress unless you track it. So like the example, like journal now about like a great day, a bad day, and everywhere in between, And then a year from now, you'll be able to look back and say like, oh, I'm way farther away from where I was there. The same as like setting a goal, just identifying the space. But like, if you don't track your mental, like, cause it's not trackable, like you can't just like have a dictation coming out of your brain. Like you need to follow and find through words. Cause like a lot of these performance anxiety, they stack vertically on top of you. Like, oh, like I lost my last match, like that was bad pitches, and they just start to compound and weigh down. Like until you like take the weights off and put them on paper and start solving the problem, as opposed to letting them all stack up over time. Because maybe now it's 3 games that stack up on top of you, or it's 10 pitches and things like that. Right. But like the breathwork stuff is tools. Like it's that same as like we're just solving a problem. We're like the breathwork solving it in real time. Like through journaling, I found out I performed my best at a 7 out of 10. How do I get to a 7 out of 10? From a state-wise, I can down-regulate my breath to get there. If I know I'm anxious or stressed out, I can try and take my mind away from that by doing a breath routine or doing like a trigger point or blaring music or whatever is your tool. But it is a person-to-person basis. But I think the tracking your mental, like journaling's therapy for me. Yeah. Because like if you really ask yourself questions and you change your perspective on like, yeah, like go do your voice now, like do somebody else talking to you, or do like a 10,000 square foot of what, or square view, 10,000 foot view of what you're doing. And you'll see that like life's really not that bad. Like I'm on scholarship, I'm this strong, I have this much going for me, but like you don't see that perspective all the time. All you see is the weeds. And they're like the saying, like, I couldn't see the trees through the forest. Like you get lost in all these very close proximity problems that stack up over time too if you don't resolve them. So like, let's start, like, why am I anxious? Like, did I not prepare enough? No, like what wrestling practice, I prepare my nuts off. Mm-hmm. So I know it's not the physical preparation. What's the mental? Like, what am I scared of? I'm scared of competition because it's uncertainty. I don't know if I'm going to win. I don't know how good I am, blah, blah. Like that stuff just like weighs a toll on you, but you can't control a lot of that stuff. So now you start adding philosophy to the journaling, and it's like, what's in my control, what's out of my control, this X, Y, and Z. I can expand my foundation. I can expand these moves out of this position. I can start solving problems and getting more confident because I'm tracking it. And I'm not
part about knowing yourself a lot better too.
Yeah, I'm not just leaving it up to the gods to decide whether I feel good this match or I don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I think a cool way to be to kind of flip this, and then we'll end it, is Brian knows all of us pretty well. Maybe Mike not as well, but he can figure it out. He said something to Treadway about asking us questions. So we'll go one question each, we'll answer, and then we'll wrap it.
Oh,
so Brian, let's go.
Giddy up.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, so who do we want to start with?
Doesn't matter. We're just making it up as we go along.
Well,
welcome to the Coach's Clinic.
No. So G, we'll go with you. Just so like you've been this player in the world of the powerlifting and those kind of things. Like, so as you transition, like when did you know for sure you became a coach? Like, cause like now you have like part of your identity as like you show like part of your accountability and all those kind of things. You're showing up to coach and hold the standard. Like when did that switch happen, and how did you navigate that transition of responsibility?
I think that when my name started getting wiped off the board a lot, and has been off for a while now, and the Gregory name's still on there, but it's not mine, it's my son's.
Yeah.
I think I started to realize, even though I've still got a lot of competition in me, and that's what drives me, so I'll always compete as long as I'm able to. And you saw me fighting to get back there, right? It's really important to me because I think that's part of just my makeup. But I started to realize, I knew a long time ago I wasn't the best athlete in the gym, but I understood what I was willing to do to get, myself to this level. And then I started thinking, if there's a way that I can start to transition this to the guys that I know are better than me, and I can show and they can emulate this consistency, this curiousness, this work, that gamer mentality that I've had for a long time and developed, that if I can start to teach that, then it's not really just about me anymore. Obviously, it's about the team. It's about the 4 a.m. It's about the gym. It's about max effort. That if I can start to get those, I think, things that I developed over all this time and articulate them properly, I could really make help make people some great at this type of stuff, right? But I needed to be able to put an environment together that I could hold a standard at, which is finally at the point where I think we're at now, right? Where there is the environment, there is the standard, and then I can check people because I am the quote unquote coach. no
Yeah.
doubt, especially at that time, right?
Do you find a detriment to your performance with the accepted coaching role?
No, I feel like when I'm healthy, it makes me better because I can lead by example still.
Cool.
I think that if you, like for me, getting back on the platform, when I called for an 80-pound jump at the last meet, I saw the joy. And the other guy's like, fuck yeah, G. Like, that's why, this is what we've been waiting on, right? And they saw me hobbling in here and getting healthy. And so I think, like, yeah, I think I'm a better coach if I can be in the trenches. The other thing is, too, is that I'm not a person, I don't like to micromanage people, right? So there might be a technique that works better for someone else, but I'm going to let them play that out. But then if I feel like it's not, then I'm going to come over and say, hey, by the way, your knees need to come out. Like we've talked about, with your back so strong, you can rely on it. But if everything's going at the same time on your deadlift, you're going to pull more, right? And you don't go and do that on purpose. That's just what your body knows how to move right now. So it's like, I think that I'm trying to like encourage people, but also like push for a standard I would keep for myself. And there's some great dudes in this gym now. There's some guys that could be some of the best in this weight class has ever seen. And I tell them that, but also when they're not doing what they should be doing, I'm going to let them know like it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
If you can't adhere to, a level of consistency that's going to be a way higher expectation. And then so like that transition for me felt like I was excited about it because we've been coaching clients for all these years, right? But this is the first time in the last, we'll call it like 2 or 3 years, that I've got a chance to coach some guys that I know could be really great if they just are dedicated. And the other thing is I had to get better at if they don't want to put it in. They don't want to put it in, or if that kid doesn't want to go pull that deadlift, I'm okay with showing them the door too. And that's okay too. And there's people that have been great or could be great that have come through here and aren't willing to adhere to that consistency or don't want to be up under my reign or whatever. Cool. We're just going to keep it moving. So it's like one of those things where I think my situation is a little different because it's like grown men team that ain't getting paid. So maybe it's a lot different, but yeah, I really enjoy it. And I enjoy pouring into guys inside of like the training that's outside, meaning it's outside of the gym. Because I have a lot of experiences I can help these young dudes with. Yeah. And so in between, we're talking about stock, we're talking about building wealth, we're talking about mentality. That stuff to me, I know is going to even be more valuable. They just don't understand it yet, maybe.
Yeah.
But when they get outside of here, they start to realize, the daily operations that's happening in here is way different than what's happening out there. The expectation's different, the coaching's different, the consistency's different, and I think the results are different.
Yeah, I think that outside stuff shows you care too as a coach and develops trust and that kind of thing too.
For sure. No.
But all right,
great question.
Yeah, go team. We're just going to start. Since we kind of touched on it already, Coach, that like the softer kids, that's something I struggle with as a coach, to coach a softer kid, or I hear a soft narrative that's dominating his mind and those kind of things, or like even if it's soft habits. How do you, I guess I don't want to say how you approach it, I think it's a bad question, but like what are some tactics you've used that have worked with like a kid that doesn't, like you don't see him as like your level of work ethic, commitment, those kind of things? What are some tactics that have worked to like progress those kids?
I just like you.
That maybe's not the star too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think I don't have a great answer for that, because I think as coaches we default to, because we get in this line of work because we tend to want to work hard, put effort in. But I will say this, that I think being a father has helped me. I realize that every kid is a little bit different, and you got to meet people where they are. So just because someone is quote unquote soft now, it doesn't mean that they have soft behaviors, they have soft habits. They're not soft. You know what I mean? That's not a life sentence that you're soft. I
like that.
Yeah. I think coaches want to go there. I think they want to go there, right? So it's can you get some small gains? Can you get some small wins? And look, they may not ever be the savage of all savages, but I think you can get them to be better, right? And so for us, I get to coach really smart kids. They usually have great families. So like the idea of the growing up in a coal mine or in Washington, Pennsylvania, like those things that's not in their ethos a whole lot. But that doesn't mean they're soft. You know what I mean? Like I have a problem with coaches who label really quickly. I think that's soft. Like if you want to talk about soft, I think soft is saying I can't reach that.
That's the easy way out.
That's the easy way out. So I'm not giving you a great answer. I'm just saying I think you have to meet people where they are, get in there, try to figure out how they're operating, how their mind's going, and then you try to just sprinkle some things in, right? But if I had any advice, and they always say advice giving is the hallmark of bad coaching, but I would say
the life sentence of softness, though. I like that point. It's not a life
I would
sentence.
say stop it. Like stop it. Like you're
I'm using that.
You're projecting. I'd say get off that. Try to know that kid. For me, my last thing is at my level, I get to recruit them and I get to coach them. So if our team's soft, guess who's soft? Me, right? Like it's me. Like so, our coaching staff. So it's on us. So it's an ownership piece. I think coaches are really quick to punt ownership, and I say get in there and own it and say, okay, if you don't like the way things are going, you better change something.
If you allow it, then
you condone it, right? So, anyways, I think that's where I would leave it.
So just to bounce an idea off you real quick, just because I've been using this a little bit as of late. I'm not gonna say kids of that caliber, but like just younger kids and younger athletes in general, is like telling them that they're like, a lot of kids are kind of like okay with where they're at in their position on the team or in the hierarchy of the team, that kind of thing. Like I constantly tell kids that they're not okay, even like even when they start to like any of their narratives lead to this, I go like you're not, you should be agitated at like not in like a stressful way, but you should always be uncomfortable in the aspect of where you're at on the team, whether you're soft or hard, those kind of things, because like in 3 years when you graduate, like if you're the same person you are today, like I failed as a coach or like you failed as a player. So like
we failed, right?
Yeah, so like I'm trying to figure out how to coach that better, like that kind of point, because I think it ties into that, but I haven't put an artwork of words to it yet.
A phrase that someone gave me once is, our job is to speak greatness into people. So you said, you don't be okay, you're agitated there, but for me, and I see G do it. G does it to me quietly, whether it's innate or not. But it's like, man, I see more in you. Like I see more. Like right. So you paint a picture. Storytelling is so powerful, but you paint a picture of what they could be. You're an artist in some way, right? So it's like, this is where you are now. But my gosh, like I see this in you, and it's amazing to me because some people have never been told that.
I try to tell people what I see all the time.
Yeah.
You're good at that.
Yeah, I just think, and once again, it's not a direct answer, but we can get frustrated, we can get agitated, but it's more like, man, I just see growth in you. You're going to be something. And to have someone tell you that, I get chills even thinking about that. Just have someone say, look, you're really good. Like you have your superpower is this, right? Even if you got to not make something up, but you find something that's not great, but
that's their strength. Yeah,
I had someone tell me that, hey, your superpower is you diffuse people. Like you're around alphas, but they all just open up to you. And I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. At 43 years old, I'm already puffing my chest out. Like, I got a superpower. So, anyways, I think if you can find a little superpower, anyways, I think there's something to that.
I like that a lot.
I've done that where I've been like, man, I see that there could be greatness here, but also if you're not willing to put the time in, I beat guys like you every day.
Yeah, you make it tangible, and you
just let them know.
And
like you could be great.
You agitate them really quick too.
But what I do will win all the time if you're not willing to put it in.
Yeah. And
I know what I'm willing to put it in. So I'll do it both ways sometimes if it's the right person. But I've done that.
Then it's on them to choose.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Are you choosing the ball or the sword?
Yeah.
So I think that because if you can see it, because you see the just the capabilities, but I let them know, like, but you got to be willing to go that next level to grab it. You know what I mean? It's not just free.
Yeah. I feel that. Tread, how long have you been coaching?
6 years.
6 years?
Yep.
So from like the start of your coaching to now, like what are the biggest lessons that you've pulled out like of those first 5-6 years? Because you're kind of like, I think like what makes a locker room and different environments good is that you see people at each stage. That's what I think you guys do really well on like the round table. You have all these people represented, and then same with the coaches here. Like you have I'm the youngest coach here. So you're kind of like my stepping stone. So like what have you like maybe pulled from them, or what have you applied in this first 5-6 years that have been the most massive to develop you as a coach?
The biggest thing that I've learned is you have to be a sponge in every environment you're in. And if you say that you can't learn something from somebody, then you're wrong or you're not trying to. And learning how to apply those things in the right situations. So everything that Corey does, I pick up from, and I can choose what I want to deploy and when I want to deploy it. Same with D, and same with Coach D, same with you, everybody. The first coach that I was with for 4 years or 5 years, whatever it was, he was a military background. So he had a very set style of play, and there are things that I picked up from him, and whether he was a good coach or not, we don't have to get into that, but he had a standard that he held, and that's one of the things that I took from him was there's a standard that's going to be, you show up early to practice, you show up and you give it your all. And then I start to deploy things that Corey, put in. Consistency. We don't miss. We push people past where they think that they can go. And I take things from Coach Deegan where I instill confidence in players. And then Coach Dustin, I'll take like the toughness, things like that.
I'm the tough coach here.
Yes.
Man, you guys are blowing me up.
Yeah.
Get your shoulders up. Get your shoulders up.
Let me set up straight now. Yeah. All right.
Right, but it's like
So good.
You find like the thing that I learned from Dustin was the thing that he taught me today when I was out there boxing. But I've known it forever. But you attack the weak, right? So I can't keep my shoulders up on a Superman, which is super humbling. But coaches over there picking my arms up and showing me how to do it, and he's attacking the weak, and he's helping me.
I was challenging you.
Challenging me.
I'm saying, how can you be so strong and not be able to
Like
do
how
this?
you get them porterhouse triceps. You can't lift them up, kid.
Well, because I know you're strong enough
Right,
to do
right.
that, even though it's a hard position, but you're fatigued, you're tired, it's difficult. But I think sometimes just having someone challenge you, like there's no way that you can't do this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I have kids that weigh 100 pounds that can do this. How can you not do it?
Yeah,
Right.
Treadway.
Let's get back out there.
Hey, it was after a tough workout. We'll give them that.
course.
We got it on today. So
To take that to soccer, like when I see a kid that's maybe faster than his opposition, but he's kind of dogging it a little bit, I'm like, why aren't you beating that kid? Like, you're a state track runner. Why are you losing? Or they'll miss an easy shot, or they'll miss an easy pass. I'm like, your standard is here, and you're performing here. I need you to be at your standard, or we're not going to be successful. So learning from everyone that I'm around and just constantly trying to find advice from somebody. And I don't think that you should mimic everybody that you're around, because I don't think any coach is perfect. And definitely when you think that you've got it all figured out, that's when I texted you yesterday. As soon as you think you're strong enough, you might as well just die. As soon as you think that you're the best coach in the world, you might
You're
as well
done.
just quit, because you're never going to get any better, and you're never going to progress yourself as a person.
That's right. This kind of is a question for everybody real quick then. Have you guys 180'd on any of your like things you used to coach, then now you kind of coach the opposite? I know it's kind of like a vague question. Like, is there anything where you've changed your stance?
Trying to think. D?
yeah, I mean, I think probably, early on, especially when I started working with Ohio State and working with, elite wrestlers, I kind of went into the workouts with the mindset that it was like the most important thing they were going to do that day. And I think it's kind of a humbling thing for a coach when you got to realize, especially being a strength coach working with athletes, it's a little bit different if you're the position coach working with the quarterback or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to remind yourself, like, okay, even though this is the most important thing I'm going to do today down here working with these D1 wrestlers, it might be, in the scheme of things, the least important thing that they do today. So to be able to kind of take my ego out of it and know, like, hey, I can't ruin them for their practice later today. I can't ruin them for when they wrestle Iowa this weekend. You know what I mean? So, like, if they get a little bit more out of the workout, but it ruins them for Iowa, then I failed at my job. So it's kind of a hard balance of really trying to accommodate everything that they have going on in their life. And then I've also kind of let that creep into other things too. Like when I train, or even when I have workout partners, whatever, I got to realize, like, okay, even though this is the most important thing to me today, it may not be the most important thing to them. They have their wife, they have their kids, they have their job, they have all these other things going on. And so I guess maybe to kind of, even though I'm a maniac, and the most important thing to me every day almost is my workout.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know whether it should be or not, but that's how it feels, right?
Yeah.
That's why I've kicked out way less people, D,
Yeah.
from what you're just saying
Yeah,
right
so
now.
I think just understanding that even if they value it, they may not look at it the way that I do. And in the scheme of what they have going on with their career, with their sports, whatever, it is not the most important thing. Their strength workout may not be. It's a piece of it, but it's not the absolute priority. So I think just understanding that and being a little bit more flexible instead of just always my way, we have to do it this way because it's the optimal way. It has to be optimal within the bounds of what they got going on.
I like that a lot.
That was a great pickup. It's
Yeah,
a great put down.
I was saving it
Yeah,
till the end.
Hey, that was good. That
You
was
guys not gonna
good.
answer. We just I do have one question directed at you, but even though that's a great answer to that question.
I'm warmed up now.
It was
I'm warmed
solid.
up. Let's go.
Well, so because that's your mindset, like I think
That was some gut check wisdom for you, Kyle, right there.
Yeah.
But like because you do live with that priority, and you do condition probably more than any coach that I've been around, kind of concept. I think you're pretty decent, because I've been to some dark places with you for my own scale of dark places. But
We almost died on that hill in Grandview. that was
I
close.
almost died.
Hey, I'm gonna go run 5 miles up this hill with Dustin today. I haven't ran in a while. I'll be good.
Oh, that one was tough too.
I threw up after like 3 reps. Get out of here. But no, so how do you coach a player in that dark place? Like, do you have tactics like when you see them getting there? Like, do you have like kind of like prods? Do you have like what's your format of coaching in that hard place?
Yeah, so I always tell them that you have to put your mind somewhere else. That's my simple way of saying is just put your mind somewhere else. Because if you focus on the way you feel physically in that moment, you'll panic because you're out of breath, you're burning, fatigue. Your mind is starting to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, like I was telling Deegan on the heavy back today,
Move your shoulders.
I said, just move your shoulders. I said, your mind controls your body, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. So I tell them that. I said, your body's just a machine that's a slave to the mind. But what happens is people get it flipped around and they start listening to their body. They listen to the feedback that is coming from their body to the mind. I try to get them to redirect it and say, like, it's almost so it's kind of like a meditative thing. Just think of, I'm in charge here of my body. My body's not in charge of me. My mind can control it. And then past that, I say you put your mind somewhere else. You think about someone else. Okay, you feel like you're panicking right now? Well, then here's what I used to do when I would run hills. I would get that panic feeling where I want to slow down. So I would kind of try to channel that into what it would be a real panic state. And that would be, I'm running to the top of the hill. My wife and children are in trouble at the top. I don't know what's going on, but I have to save them. So that was okay. Yeah. So it's okay to feel panicked. Well, if I was in that panic state and that was really what was happening, would I slow down? No, I would continue to run until my legs fell off, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a trick I would use, like at Hoover Dam and running C deck and things like that. I would think, Julie and the kids are at the top. They need me, And I know it sounds so corny to say out loud, but that's what I would do. So
I've done that in the past too.
Yeah,
I didn't never wanted to articulate it.
I'd say, probably it's not the same. You're saying, all right, my Tinder date's waiting for me.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
But I would tell them, I'd say, hey, all right, cut. I'd say, you feel like you're in an emergency right now? Okay, find your emergency. What is it? Yeah. What is it that you have to save that you would give everything?
The mind's that powerful.
Yeah. What would you give everything to make it to the top of the hill? Whatever that is for you, find it and put it there at the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's savage. I used to do it on kickoff. Like if you don't make this tackle, your brother dies. And I was
right.
and but I'm dead serious. But then I wouldn't make the tackle, and then I'd get really. I was like, well, my brother's dead.
But when it would work,
no,
your mindset when you're running down that field and it would feel so serious.
Yeah,
right?
But I need to reframe it more for conditioning because no matter what, I'm gonna finish the rep, but I'm not going to make every play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So learning experience. I love you, Kevin.
Yeah. All right. That's a great way to wrap it. Brian, where can everybody find you at?
Everybody can find me at Brian_Peters10 on Instagram and Twitter. At Chasing Edges on Instagram, Twitter, themindstrongproject.com or at the MindStrong Project on Instagram and mindstrongproject.com. And that's where all the boys are. Yeah.
Love it.
All the breath is. Yeah.
Rumor is you can find him at 8 a.m. tomorrow running hills with me and Braxton. That's the rumor.
Just making vows with the gods to kill my family.
Well, make sure you guys share this out with your friends. Leave us a positive review, 5-star. Hit the right button, right, Dustin? On the 5-star on the right side.
Buttons.
Yeah, I accidentally gave us a 1-star review.
I didn't know if he was going to own up to it.
I was like, I'm going to go on and give us a review, get us some traction, beat the algorithm. I gave us a 1-star. I hit the wrong side. It was like, thank you for your review. I was like, shit.
So don't do what Dustin did.
Definitely write reviews. I think reviews are really cool feedback. Like I haven't asked anybody to write reviews on MindStrong or my things and those kind of things, but the feedback I see is really cool and powerful for me.
For sure.
So yeah, anybody out there that's listening, review the boys. Did you guys ever see my review from the old school t-shirt purchase?
Yes, Danny sent it to me. Unbelievable.
Anarchy. All right.
No, you're good. You're good. You want to go?
No, I can't regurgitate that much bullshit. But yeah, I just was hyping up the old school gym gear. That's phenomenal.
I love it.
Oldschoolgym.com.
Oldschoolgym.com. Jointherealgym.com.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, Coach's Clinic. We are out.